Okay guys, so it's the Jace Man, and I am back with another video for Yandex Practicum's Data Scientist course. I told you I'd be keeping up with things, so I'm going to do that because I'm a man of my word. Now the first thing I want to report is I did speak with some of the folks at Yandex Practicum last night when I needed to reach out for support to get through something. And I did this because, well, honestly, I wanted the feedback for myself, but I also wanted to provide you guys with honest feedback as well as Yandex with honest feedback. So I'm trying to be as fair to everyone as I can. You, my listeners and watchers, myself for obvious reasons, and Yandex as well. So that is to say, one of the things that I asked them, because I was really struggling with a lot of the instruction in the data scientist course, as you know, I just came right out and asked. I said, tell me, if you guys weren't in beta right now, who is your target customer for this product in this course? And what prerequisites would you want them to have in order to be successful? And the feedback I got was that the course is being designed and put together for someone with no coding experience, only some general math skills. But it basically looked like what they were telling me was anyone who is of average intelligence or better and is comfortable with math should be able to do the course. So, I was looking at it because the instructions are not that clear to me. I was thinking that maybe it's not fair for me to say that the instructions aren't that clear because maybe I'm not really the target customer. Maybe it's for people who are already well-versed with Python, maybe junior-level developers or beginner developers with a year of coding under their belt. I was told that's not so. So with that being said, then my original criticisms of the course stay firm. I don't think the instruction is that great, but I wanted to make this video not just to say that, but I wanted to give you an idea of something I decided that I'm going to do today as I get ready to go through some more of the course material to hopefully make things easier on me. And I'm going to report back, so you'll see it in the same video. It's not like you're going to come back for a video too. I'm going to come back into this video and let you know how I thought it went and if this helped. And if so, maybe it's something that you'll want to try. If it's not, maybe you'll save yourself some time, or maybe you'll still think it's a good idea. I don't know. So one of the first things that I did was at the end of each course, let me go ahead and show you this. I'll go in here. At the end of each one of the courses that you complete, on your conclusion page, Yandex provides you with these cheat sheets. And basically, it's a recap of the information that you studied. I actually think that these cheat sheets would be great before you go into the lesson so that you could kind of look at it side by side while you're doing information. And what I mean by that is I'll tell you, okay? First of all, one of the greatest things that you can do to learn anything is to repeat the process over and over and over. Repetition is fantastic. We need to be doing it. You need to be practicing. And so I would encourage, whether you're going through Yandex course or any other course, if you're following along and they're having you type commands and code out, don't just immediately go into the next module and click next just because next is provided. Do that same module 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times before you go on so that you can get used to looking at that and you can get used to the syntax and typing those same commands over. And I will say that is something that I should be doing anyway, but especially is where this cheat sheet could come in handy because, for instance, let's say you're on this task here that I completed, right? Well, when you click next, once you have learned this skill here, okay, you've only typed this command or used this function up to in your learning probably one time so far. And what happens is when you click next, they're going to go ahead and teach you something new, a new command, a new method, a new function, something that you're going to have to put into the interpreter. But usually they want you to go ahead when they assign the task, and they want you to take advantage of the new thing that you're being taught, but then they expect you also to go ahead and pull something back from the last lesson or two. If it was the exact previous task, that may not be that difficult because you just typed it in, you just used it, so maybe it's fresh in your brain. But what will happen is sometimes they'll expect you to do something that maybe you covered 4 or 5 pages ago, which may not seem like a lot, but now we're talking about an hour, hour and a half of development time of a task that maybe you did one time in your life and you haven't did for an hour. And since you did that task an hour ago, you have now did several other tasks. So it's kind of replaced the information in the old noggin with something new, right? And so a lot of times I find myself going, I don't really know what to do. I think I kind of know what to do here. If I'm right, they want me to do that thing I learned a few pages ago, only I don't really remember how to do it. And so at that point, I've got to go back into here, go find which one it was at, look at it, and piece it together. So those cheat sheets that they give you at the end, I think would be fantastic if they said, here it is at the start, or maybe made a beginning and end version. So here's the cheat sheet at the end, and or maybe they give you a cheat sheet at the beginning, but at the end a review sheet. So kind of like, here's what we're going to teach you, here's what we just taught you, right? So you could have two different concepts here, and maybe the sheet at the end goes into more detail, but the beginning sheet at least gives you a little bit of syntax and a little bit of hand holding to help you as you go through. But that's one of the things that I'm going to be doing here at the end of the thing, and I'm hoping that it's going to help. So, for instance, let me go ahead and show you here. I'm going to go ahead and open up my folder here. So here are their cheat sheets. Now I'm getting ready to go into topic 4, okay? So that means that I have the cheat sheet from completing operations with tables, topic 3. This is the most recent cheat sheet that I have. So I'm going to make sure that I open up my cheat sheet 3 as I go into task 4, but I'm actually going to open up all 3 of them. So boom, boom, and boom. So I'm going to keep all of these open. Bring this over here so you can see. I'm going to keep my little PDF editor open here, or PDF viewer open here. This is my cheat sheet from lesson 1, or topic 1, I should say. My cheat sheet from topic 2, my cheat sheet from topic 3. And now as I go into topic 4, if I get a bit stumped or lost, maybe I can come back here and look at this to give myself a little bit of help. Like, I think I remember, I think I know what I'm supposed to do. I just don't remember how it's done. Like, I think they're wanting me to take advantage of sorting my data, or I think they're wanting me to do a for loop, or use the full length of my range. Different concepts that you might be learning, but you don't really remember how to type them up or how to, what syntax they belong in. Maybe having this will help me, and by extension help you. The other thing that you could do is, I recommend, if you don't already have one, that you get yourself a good code editor to use with Yandex and use with other things. I have not been doing this, and I went back and redid my last hour of last night this morning to kind of take advantage of this. So that means I'm using Visual Studio Code. You don't have to be. But what I would recommend that you do, and I will show you this in just a second, is I'm going to go ahead and I've told Visual Studio Code that I want to open up a folder, right? So I got my little coding project here, my classes, Yandex, data scientist. This is just the way I sort. You don't have to do it. And then I can go into my courses here. So now I can see all of my files from course 1 right here. I might drill this down and do another folder for topic. It doesn't really matter. The point is I'm going to have a folder here that has all my information. Now what I recommend that you do, and what I'm doing, is, let me go back in here to my course, okay? So what I am doing now is I'm going to go back just a lesson in this topic to 8, okay? So here's my information, right? What I'm doing now is I'm starting here, and I'm copying this information from the lesson plan. I'm not going to get the table in there too. I'm just going to get the data. So I go ahead and I copy the information, right? And then what I do is I create a new file, and I'm going to put the information here, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this as just a plain text file. And then you can see the way I'm doing it. I have my course folder, and then I'm naming the file via the topic, the lesson, and the task. So I was doing it by task. I'm probably just going to have the general information. Well, actually, it's a really good plan the way I had it before. Scratch what I was getting ready to say. So we know, as of right now, that we are in Course 1, Topic 3, Lesson 8, right? So I'm going to save this as this. It's already in the Course 1 folder, Topic 3, Lesson 8. And if you wanted to do it for each task, sometimes the information changes on the task, I believe, but I don't think that's very often. So I'm just going to do it like this, Topic 3, Lesson 8. And that will be my same information for all of my tasks. So we do this as .txt, right? Great. Now, similarly, so that's going to be our lesson plan so that we know what our task is. Similarly, what I recommend that you do is take the code that you have here, grab all of the code, go back to your code editor, do another file, save the information in here from your task, and I will tell you why I'm doing this in a minute other than just for review places later. So I can go to Save As. I now know that this is a Python file, not a text file, so I will change that. And again, this was Topic 3, Lesson 8, Task 1. So now I can come back here and build on these at any time if I need to go back and review. And here's the really great thing. Here's a big example of why this is helpful. Let me go back and do one of the ones that I did last night. Let me pull it up. Okay, this is actually perfect. So I was able to eventually, and it did take a while, figure out how to pass the task. But I basically did the same thing for 3 different things. We're finding out the data for Emoji Express, Instagram, and Twitter on how these emojis occur. Well, I figured out, okay, we need a loop to sum up the total for us, and then we're going to divide that total by the number of items in our list to get our average. So that helped me get my Emoji Express total. Then I did the same thing for Instagram. Then I did the same thing for Twitter. And it worked. And it was great. But because I had this data on my machine and not just having to go back over here, because remember, once you complete the task, you can't start over. You could run it so I could put it back in there and play, but once we've completed the task, it's not going to tell us that we have now messed the task up. So what I am doing now is I decided, let me just play with the code and see if I can improve it. Let me see if I can improvise and make my code better. So I played a little bit, and one of the things that I figured out was that instead of having 3 separate loops, one for each piece of data that we were trying to figure out, I could probably combine that all into one loop. So I declared my variables here, and then since I was doing the same calculation just for 3 different variables, I had my loop work on each variable. And then after I got my totals, I simply divided them by the number. There may be some kind of way that I could do a loop for this too, but it's smarter than I am right now. I'll have to tackle that later. But the point is, I was able to turn... Go back to it again here. I was able to turn this into this by playing. And I'm not sure I would have been able to do that if I had used their editor and already passed. So that's another great advantage in why you maybe want to save stuff off-site on your machine so that you can just go back and play with your code later to improve. But, so I'm going to be doing what we just talked about. I've got my cheat sheets open, right? All of my cheat sheets are open. I've got my Visual Studio Code set up here. You saw that I'm going to copy and paste information from each lesson plan, as well as my code itself into separate files and work on them here, and then just basically paste the results in there. So we're going to give that a run now, and in just a few minutes, you're going to find out if that was a big success or didn't help me at all. But I'm going to let you guys know, okay? All right. See you soon. All right. So what were the results of my testing? And by testing, I mean specifically, what were the results of making use of my Visual Code Studio, along with the lessons and the tasks. And I did go ahead, in case you can't tell here, I did put another folder in there for each individual topic so that I could keep them there. And then basically I have the lesson text by itself with none of the tasks, and then the tasks go into a separate text file. I do think that it is a little more work, but I think that's going to serve me well going forward, assuming I'm able to complete the course, which we'll come to in just a moment. For as long as I'm able to do it, I think it's going to be better for me than it was without. It is more work. I encourage you to do it, though. It also, again, gives you the ability to go back and more easily tinker with and improve your code later. All right. Now, I also think that these guys, having them saved and being able to look at them while you're going through the courses is beneficial and helpful like I thought it would be. That being said, it is not a total saving grace, and that is because I am now actually having my tools open here. I am now convinced more than ever that when I was saying that A, the instructions aren't all that clear, and B, sometimes I feel like they ask you to do tasks that they haven't really shown you how to do yet, or syntax that they haven't really revealed or shared. I feel like I am more sure of that than ever. Maybe I'm wrong. I would love to hear from some students in the Slack channel that have no experience or very, very, very little experience with Python before taking this course, that they are humming along without any difficulty. I have voiced my complaints that I don't find the instructions very clear. There have been a lot of students who have come along and agreed with me. There have been a couple who have said, I think it's pretty straightforward. But then when I hover over them in Slack channel, it will say that they are programmers or data scientists as their title. So it leads me to believe that they're already working in the field or already have some experience, which I would expect it to make more sense to them. I've asked, and I haven't heard any feedback yet, so I cannot confirm or deny that. But I am skeptical that if you're starting at day 0 or day 5 or day 10 or day 20, that this instruction is going to be straightforward. I'm not getting that. I'm a pretty bright guy. I do have some prior experience with programming, a little bit. Most of my coding has been on the markup side, which is not programming, the HTML, CSS, front-end stuff. But I have done things like JavaScript and PHP. I played around with a few Python tutorials and things. So I'm not much above 0, but I'm not at 0. And a lot of these concepts are way above me. And specifically, I ran into another just a moment ago when I was going through there. Let me see if I can show you what I'm talking about here. So here's well, actually, I have the lesson plan open still. Let's go there real quick. All right, so let's go down here. We're given all of this as our task. I'm not going to read all that to you for many obvious reasons, right? But this is our lesson, right? Okay, I said our task, but that's really our lesson. So this is the data that we're having to work from, the concepts that they're explaining. We look at all this, and then we get to our task. And our task says the function currently sorts items in descending order. Let's add the ability to sort in ascending order. In order to do that, add another argument to the function. It should have the same principal as the argument reverse of the method sort, accepting the value false. Okay, so that's a lot to swallow there, especially if you're not all that experienced. It needs to be sorted in descending order and true if it needs to be sorted in ascending order. In order to do that, add a reverse argument to the function. After you add the new argument, the previously written function calls will cease to run, since the function accepts 3 arguments while we only pass it 2. In order to fix them, pass them the 3rd argument. After that, print the 5 shortest films from the table. And that's a lot of stuff there, right? Let me go back up here real quick. Here's the code we need to modify. I'll show you what we needed to modify in just a second. Then the hint says, adding new reverse argument into the function. The argument should be reverse equals true, since we require the larger values at the top. The function call will now look like this. Print top 5 column data to true. Okay, well, this makes a little bit more sense to me now because of the fact that I see this, the function call. I did not see the word call before, and I read this like 30 times, and that's probably because I don't have a ton of experience with this, right? So it kept saying print top 5 column data to and true. So I kept looking at it here and thinking, why on earth is that doing that? Because the only place that data is mentioned is up here. It's not down here when we're actually calling the function. This is another thing that I found confusing. So technically speaking, they should probably have Oscar data here instead of just data. Or, yeah, I'm just going to say that. They should probably have Oscar data down here. Because when they're defining their function up here, they have data and column. But here's the other part. Because it says data, I was kind of thinking this was supposed to be up here and not the call of the function. So I think that's my problem and their problem. I think I'm going to take some shared blame on this one. I don't think that putting data here is the right thing. They should have Oscar data, since that is since that is what we're calling in here. That is the list that we are working from. But because it wasn't listed that way, I was thinking it was talking about defining the function. So I think there's some shared blame to go there. In any event, what happens here is it says data and true. So far, all we have been taught is to type reverse as a Boolean value, and we need to set it to true or false. So first of all, in the function, I didn't even know that we could have reverse here without setting it to true or false in our function. I did not know that we could define our function and not set whether the reverse was true or false immediately. I guess that's why it was left off in the first example that they gave us, or the previous lesson. And then down here, here's something else I didn't know. I did not know that we could set reverse for sorting. It kind of makes sense to me now looking at this, but I didn't know that we could do it. I didn't know that we could set the sort to reverse equals reverse. I thought it had to be true or false. So before we add true or false, so basically here's how I was writing this before. Once I asked for support, I kept waiting. It did take a while. Eventually they came along and they sent me a link to Pastebin and gave me some code to look at. And I was able to use their code. And I think I kind of understand what's going on, but kind of. Having said that, here's what I was doing before. So it had data column, and then I had like reverse equals true here. And then they had reverse equals true here, because they told us to set it to reverse equals true in our function. So that's what I was doing. And then we had it previously set to true here, so I didn't mess with that. I didn't mess with this line because it didn't look like we needed to mess with the line. And then down here, basically what I was doing is, originally I had left it just like they have here. I had left it with, I didn't leave it. I put this in here. Basically, this is what it looked like. I'll show you guys. This is what it looked like before we were assigned the task. And I knew that since we had a third argument here that we needed to tell it to use it. So I tried to do it exactly like it is done here. But when I would try to check it, or in Visual Studio Code, if I tried to run it there, either or, whether it was on Yandex's site or on my desktop machine, both interpreters reported that I had a syntax error, and it would tell me here it was because I was passing this Boolean value, but I wasn't telling it why. So I needed to have, in order for it to work, I needed to put reverse equals down here for the check to work. So I set all of these reverse equals true because they were. I got down to the last one. The last one is basically we've got maximum length and minimum length of field. So this entire line wasn't there. You were supposed to figure out what to do. I was able to figure out that basically it was the same since we're maximum length and minimum length. We just needed to reverse it. So for this one, I basically had the same way it is now, except I had reverse equals so that it would do something. But even though I ran that over and over and over, it was ignoring the fact that I had reverse equals false here. And I think that I know why. But the point is, I don't recall anything in the lessons, this lesson or previous lessons, that told me this was a valid operator or a valid way to write the code. And so, well, actually that's not right. Still, it's supposed to be reverse just here. Reverse by itself. Reverse equals reverse is here. And so what happens is, that's the thing there. So I had reverse equals true up there. That wasn't even there. Discount that. It's more about the sorting here. The reverse equals true, but it's the same thing that I was talking about. Not the function, but the sort. So reverse equals true is what we told the sort to happen. And so every time it was called down there, it was just doing true, 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 true. It didn't matter that I had something down here because all it knew was we were going to sort this information in descending order. Now, by setting reverse equal to itself, down here, it's expecting us to provide the argument of reverse, or the value of the argument of reverse. So, true, 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 false, and then it runs, and what we wind up with is these films for our maximum length, these films for our minimum length. Whereas before, me doing it this way, basically the information I had for maximum length was the exact same information I had for minimum length. It wasn't telling me anything different. And that is because what I was doing was I had reverse equals true here still. So all it knew to do was to sort it in descending order. I totally get now why this works, but I don't believe that anything in their lesson plan led me to believe that this is a logical conclusion or where you would go to. In previous lessons, I didn't get anything from that. In their instruction here, I certainly don't pick this up out of there. And in the hint, I don't get this here, especially because nowhere do we have reverse equals itself in here. Everything that we see given up here, or even down here in the hint, is that reverse is equal to true, or reverse is equal to false. So, yeah. Bottom line is twofold. I think that my advice of using an offsite code editor and keeping a copy of your lesson text, your task text, and your code files is smart and valuable. Keeping open the cheat sheets that they give you at the end of things as you're going to the next lesson, I think that's a smart move too. Although I really 100% agree with my thinking now that they should furnish those sheets before you start the lesson plan, not at the end. And if they're not going to do that, then they need to have a before and after version, because the instruction they just gave me, there's no way that I don't believe that you could arrive at the conclusion to do what you're supposed to do. So they're asking you to do things that I don't think that they're equipping you to really pull off unless you have prior knowledge. My opinion. Okay, I've rambled too much. This video is a lot longer than I want it to be, so I'll see you guys later.